Welcome to the Pyramid Insider. I'm Tyler Patner. Today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new BB replica of an American classic, the Springfield Armory M1 Carbine. Before we get into some more detail on the M1 Carbine, go ahead, hit us with that like button for this American classic rifle here. Don't forget to comment down below, let us know what you think of the video, and as always, subscribe. Announced at SHOT Show 2019, the M1 Carbine, finally have one in our hands to review for you guys. Wanted to give you a look at the box as well. The box really caught my eye. I think it looks really nice, kind of eye-popping there. But just know it comes in a nice box, some nice interior foam as well to keep it safe and secure in its travels, as well as a very nice kind of gloss-covered manual that's going to give you all the information you need on the gun. Now, of course, the M1 Carbine's been available in many different forms in the firearm world, as it was in U.S. military service from about World War II up until the 1970s or so, and has been very popular in the civilian market through that time and ever since. Now, this is, of course, a .177 caliber BB repeater with blowback, functions off CO2, of course. So we're really looking forward to seeing how many shots this does, how that blowback feels, if we have any hangups, things like that. But should be a pretty solid rifle overall. This is brought to us by Air Venturi under that Springfield Armory license that they have. So very excited to see this, even though Springfield didn't actually make an entire M1 Carbine, but they did make parts for them back in the day. Now, starting at the front of the gun, we do have our three-prong style front sight with a nice blade there in the center. I found this very easy to use. And then moving on back, we do have a Bayonet Lug. Now, I don't know if this will actually fit a real bayonet for the M1 Carbine. I don't have one to test, so somebody out there, you'll have to tell me if this works or not. And then moving over to the left-hand side of the gun, we do have our front sling mount position, and that matches up nicely with the rear sling mount position that you would find on a traditional M1 Carbine. Now, what we have here is the faux wood, synthetic wood look, I guess is the way they refer to it on the website, stock here. Now, this is, typical polymer stock, feels pretty solid. You can see the seam line in it, but overall looks really good. From pictures, this thing looks like a real wood stock. So it's got a very nice look to it, and honestly got a nice feel to it as well. But for those of you that do want to upgrade to a real wood stock, it is available for about $100 more. Now, moving back to the breech of the gun, of course, we do have our bolt handle here, and this is your blowback function, guys. So this whole unit is coming back. That's a lot of weight, so I'm interested to see how it's going to feel, if it's going to give a nice recoil impulse or not, and of course, how many shots we're going to get out of it, because I suspect moving all of that weight is going to use quite a bit of CO2. To lock this in place, for those of you that don't know, this isn't going to lock back when it's empty, nor does the firearm. The difference between a CO2 version and the firearm, of course, though, with the firearm, once you're out of bullets, it's just going to go click. With the CO2 version, you will actually dry fire it continually if you continue to pull the trigger once you're out of BBs. Now, if you do want to lock the bolt to the rear, you're just going to go ahead, pull that back all the way, and depress this little tab here into the slot, and it's just going to sit locked back, ready to go. When you throw a new magazine in that, or if you want to just close up the action, you just simply give it a little pull back and let go. Very easy to do. Now, moving back, we do have a Windage Adjustable only rear sight. You don't have any elevation adjustment. That said, the little bit of pre-testing that we've done already, haven't needed to make any elevation changes to it at about 10 yards, so that's good to know. Out of the box, this seems to be pointing very straight and doing a great job as far as sight alignment goes with where those BBs are hitting. So point of aim and point of impact are pretty well matched here, just a slight windage change, but very easy to do with the micro click adjustment. And dropping down, we do have our curved trigger blade here, as well as our safety selector. It's labeled safe and fire, so this is the safe position. This is your fire position, standard, very easy to use and ready to go. And then we have our magazine release, and dropping out our magazine, this is really where the bulk of the weight on this M1 Carbine is. The total weight of the package is about 5.7 pounds, which is actually right around what a real M1 Carbine weighs. And honestly, guys, a lot of that comes from this full metal magazine. Now in the box, you're also going to find a standard Allen key here, and that is for opening up your CO2 compartment here on the bottom of the mag. So we're just going to take that screw all the way out, and you'll notice it's also slotted here if you want to use a flathead screwdriver as well. Now we're going to show you guys how to load up CO2 and the magazine itself. Let me put on my safety glasses. Always recommend that you guys throw on some safety glasses when you're messing around with CO2, whether it's loading, unloading, whatever you have. You don't want any of that blowing into your eyes. Could be potentially dangerous there. So we're just going to insert the CO2 cartridge right in, face down like that, and you're just going to kind of re-secure the piercing cap. I'm going to throw that Allen key back in there, start to tighten it up. Now to tighten this up all the way, you'll hear a little bit of a pressurization, maybe, but it's a pretty quiet one. I've been actually really surprised with this. You don't get any leaking or anything. We're pierced and ready to go at this point. Now let's load some BBs. The M1 Carbine magazine is super simple to load. You're just going to take the follower here and pull it down to this retention slot at the bottom. And I like to keep my finger here on that follower in the slot, just so it doesn't snap up for some reason and snap into here, because you can break the follower if that happens. So something to be wary of with all CO2 guns, not just this one. And then you're just going to locate your little kind of cutout here for the BBs and load them in one at a time. Very easy to do. Just going to kind of position it so that they can roll back there. And this is a 14 round magazine, one in the chamber, 15 round capacity. And we're just going to get it loaded up and ready to shoot. And we're ready to go hit the range, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 10-yard accuracy testing. We're going to go ahead and see how many shots per fill we're getting. It's rated at about 40. We're going to see if that holds up. And of course, rated at 425 feet per second velocity. We're going to find out if that's what it does. Let's head out to the range. So we took the M1 Carbine out to 10 yards. Feel like that's a pretty good distance for a BB gun for accuracy, of course. Started with the Smart Shots 1.3 inch group for 10 shots. Not bad, but not great. Hornady Black Diamonds, a 1.2 inch group. So okay, we're getting better. The Air Venturi Steels at 1 1/8 inches. So again, pretty solid, but we can do better. Got the Umarex Steel BBs at 1 inch. Now 1 inch or better is what I'm looking for. So this is starting to trend in the right direction. The Daisy Match BBs at under 3/4 inch for 10 shots, very impressive. But the Crossman Copperheads at 0.65 inches here for all 10 shots, a nice tight cluster there, relatively well centered with those sights. I got no complaints with this accuracy out of the M1 Carbine. So we put a fresh 12 gram CO2 into our M1 Carbine magazine, loaded it up all the way 15 rounds, and we're looking at about 40 to 45 good shots right in this nice tight cluster here. And that's really before I could feel the recoil kind of start to die out a little bit. We got another 10 shots or so, so right around 54, 55, and then we had this guy just drop low, first shot out of the next magazine we loaded. So I'm gonna say about 45 good shots on the M1 Carbine. So the Springfield Armory M1 Carbine, a pretty impressive offering, very realistic to the true firearm as you would expect. I really like the blowback feel of this gun, but I will say doesn't get a ton of shots. Now it's advertised as only getting about 40 shots per fill. We got 45 and that's all good. On one CO2 cartridge, that's certainly not bad, but it's not very many. So just know that going in that you're definitely gonna need to get yourself a lot of CO2 because you will wanna shoot the heck out of this thing. Now, one of the other things I would have liked to seen on this M1 carbine is an elevation adjustment on the rear sight. We didn't need it, but still would like to have it there. It's just good to have. But overall, the fit, finish, the feel of this gun when you're shooting it is great. Obviously, a full metal gun with the synthetic stock option looks pretty realistic, and you have the wood option available if you want to spend just a little bit more money and get that little bit more realistic